I want to introduce our next speaker for this afternoon. We're privileged to be joined today by Mr. Sachin Kalantri, who is the Director Product Marketing at Qualcomm India. Mr. Sachin brings more than 25 years of experience in the telecom industry across areas spanning wireless systems, residential broadband, mobile broadband and broadcast, video on demand, voice over IP, and push-to-talk systems. He has been with Qualcomm for more than 18 years and has worked extensively on wireless products and technologies such as Snapdragon chipsets, 3G, 4G technologies, mobile broadcast, and has held several lead positions in areas ranging from engineering, technical marketing, product development, product marketing. Currently, Sachin leads the QCT product marketing and management activities in Qualcomm India and is responsible for enabling solutions that serve Indian markets. He's here today to brief us about how to develop NB-IoT end-to-end. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Sachin Kalantri.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, let me really congratulate Mobitel on a couple of counts. I think since morning we've heard Mr. Jayakishan told about the status of IoT around the world. Out of the 500 odd operators, 41 operators have either deployed or tried or thinking of doing it. I'm sure others are also doing it, but 41 are known. And certainly Mobitel is one of them. Big congratulations. I think a lot of times we think smaller countries, developing countries cannot do it. It is all the initiative that is required to make it happen. And I think Mobitel has taken that first step in putting together this wonderful event, getting everyone together as part of the ecosystem, and also selecting a 3GPP standard for narrowband IoT. I think it's a big step, big decision. So a big round of applause for Mobitel for making that happen. We have seen a number of times that a bad choice in choosing a technology can actually make or break a lot of businesses. And having an international standard to go with your deployment strategy is always the wisest thing. So Mobitel has done really true justice to it. In the morning session, Rasanta talked about being slow-paced. I think that is probably not true. You have already taken the first step of launching the network, investing in the network. Now, of course, the other pieces need to fall in place, and that's what I think rest of the ecosystem is also focused on. My industry colleague Bruno talked about that chicken and egg issue. It's an interesting issue from a couple of points of view. I think one issue is between device and network, who is going to blink first. I think you already blinked first, launched the network, so that one logjam is over. Now the next issue could be devices versus applications and services. So that part is still valid. And I think that issue is also not a big logjam. It is solvable because we have platforms, capabilities, etc., everything available today. And we are going to talk about some of that. All our speakers talked about multiple opportunities, multiple use cases. I think one of the other opportunities that the ecosystem here can take heart from is, I think Sri Lanka has a very good software development ecosystem, ICT ecosystem, and you guys are starting early in NB-IoT. You can leverage this experience from here and take it to the world, basically. That's a big opportunity because networks are going to come up, use cases are going to come up. Any investment you make in developing applications and ecosystems here are going to be leverageable across the world. So I think very a lot of things to look forward to in future from here on. Some speakers talk about security, eGPRS or GSM. So I want to just talk about one thing on eGPRS and GSM. I think it served its purpose in last 20-25 years in terms of providing low cost modules, etc., etc. However, as more and more subscribers are moving to 4G and 3G, these GSM networks are going to be all empty, and it is going to become unviable to run those networks in the long run. So it is better that we start investing all our energies into LTE right now and 5G going forward, so that we don't have to, or operators don't have to, even governments don't have to carry the baggage of older technologies with them. Dr. Shamil from Mobitel, he showed us the complete stack in terms of multiple layers, where all things are done, etc., basically, and what is the state, where the investments are and where the returns are. So investment in the network is already made. Now the next stage is to peel the onion further and develop rest of the pieces. So if you look at a very simplistic IoT application, by the way, someone in the morning said technical presentations are boring. Unfortunately, I have to do that, and especially after lunch, but that's okay. I'll try to simplify it as much as possible, hoping that I don't put you guys to sleep. In a simplistic term, you have applications and you have devices which are connected together by a cloud. Now that cloud can be anything, applications can be anything, and devices can be anything. All depends upon what use cases you are driving. And they are all separated through this line, but somewhere they need to communicate, and that's where different parts need to be built out by the ecosystem. When you look at applications, application is actually at in a very, very simplistic term, can use couple of things, use cloud services and create use cases which are deployable basically. So application at the top, and then SAS, which is software as a service, offered by some of the existing or established cloud players, or OEMs, application developers, and even operators can do their own solutions basically. Then at the devices level, there are slight complications in the sense that you have to do a lot of integration, not only with the cloud to be able to talk to the end application, you also need to have some platforms to collect data which are required using the sensors, and then some modules to transfer that data back to the application through the cloud. Now, in order to simplify all this, we have tried to create some infrastructure, and that infrastructure I'm going to touch upon. The opportunity that we discussed this morning is realizable only if we actually encompass all these things. We at Qualcomm are trying to solve this part of the problem at the bottom, which is making sure that we have ingredients which enable the IoT module and enable application developers to use that IoT module to create applications. And that's the part I'm going to focus on. So before I talk about the stack and other stuff, let me talk about the platform in general. I think most of this is already covered by some of our speakers in the morning, talking about what to look for in an NB-IoT platform. So integrated location, we need security solutions, support for CAT M1 as well as CAT NB1, so that depending upon your deployment strategy, you can use the same hardware in a different way. Single software image, so that you don't need to have multiple baselines to be maintained, because your investments are going to be very small initially. and one RF, so that you develop one solution to be used for multiple operators around the world. So all this is there, plus we have other stuff. For example, VoLTE is already there, not mentioned here, because some applications using eMTC or Cat-M1 can make use of VoLTE. Security is a very big piece. A lot of times we talk, and someone touched upon security in the morning sessions. We look at security only at the network level or at the application level, but I think device level security, security of entire communication, etc., is very important. So unless you secure the whole value chain or whole communication chain, it's very, very difficult to say that your application is secure. So we are trying to create security related infrastructure on the platform itself. And then we are providing two ways of enabling solutions using that platform. One is a simple way where that platform is used just as a connectivity solution. A lot of people are comfortable with some of their existing microcontrollers, programming, etc. They can use this as a connectivity solution, combine it with their microcontroller, and go to the cloud. The other option, since we have a built-in processor on the platform, you don't need a microcontroller. And to be able to program the microcontroller, we are providing a SDK with a lot of advanced features. Now, in order to simplify the whole application, we have integrated lightweight M2M. This is a OMA compliant stack, which helps operators as well as OEMs to create beautiful device management solutions. It's very important that we have all the manageable objects deployed in the field, then only all your IoT applications are going to be helpful. And since lightweight M2M is specified by OMA, we want it to be OMA compliant. We have integrated that already. Certainly, some OEM can do their own integration there, but you know, lightweight M2M is a widely accepted thing, and you should leverage that. If you want to do your own design, then we have exposed something called as QAPI. A lot of capabilities are exposed through QAPI, and those APIs will help you create the way you want to view your objects, basically. And then we have support for all these capabilities, including core BSP, communication services, data services, utilities, tools, diagnostic, etc., all built through the QAPI. So a discerning application developer can make use of all of these in a very simplistic way and create their application. Several times you see that there is an issue in terms of accessing SDK or software development kit from Qualcomm, because many of the ecosystem developers, they are not direct customers of Qualcomm. However, what we have done is we have released the SDK to everyone who is interested in this. Just a simple NDA is good enough. And we also release this SDK through the modules which are developed by our partners based on our platform. At a very high level, this is a very, very simple architecture we have. At the base layer, you have the modem, and on top of this, we have enabled most of the objects and the services which are exposed through QAPI. Although I am showing ThreadX here as the high-level OS, we also support Linux. However, depending upon which module maker you are using, you may or may not have exposure to Linux, but ThreadX is going to be available across everything. When you are developing your application at the high level, you can directly use QAPI and ThreadX API and create an application. However, if you are using a cloud solution like, say, Azure or AWS or some other solution, then that can be integrated using QAPI, and applications can be developed. So you have the flexibility in terms of doing anything you want. There are, as I mentioned, you can either use a microcontroller or not use a microcontroller. When we are not using a microcontroller, we call it a hostless architecture. In this case, IoT application is directly residing here and it is communicating through the modem to the cloud and through its own interfaces like GPIO or SPI or UART with the sensors. However, if you are using a MCU, then most of the stuff is done on MCU and you are using this platform just as a modem. And communication through to MCU happens through AT command interface, which is a very standardized interface. There are standard set of AT commands which are already developed. I think some people who are at the back, developers, they will understand this better. However, there are always custom AT commands that you need that can be developed by the developers, and then we have a pass-through interface so that AT handler application just passes it on to the MCU rather than picking it to it. In a very, very simple way, this is how we see the ecosystem needs to be developed. Qualcomm has a LTE platform which is at 9206, and we provide a SDK both to the IoT developer ecosystem as well as to the module vendors. We have a bunch of module vendors at the back. You should go and experience some of the devices and the modules they have developed. But when they develop those modules, they combine the SDK to create their own SDK along with any changes to their ThreadX kernel, tools, etc., and pass it on to IoT developer ecosystem. So IoT developer ecosystem can get all that is needed to create an IoT application basically. So that's how we have tried to simplify it. And then it is as simple as installing the SDK, creating an app using your application logic and the APIs which are provided, load it on the development board, test it, and then finally launch it in the cloud basically. So that's the simplified process for all our IoT application developers. There are two approaches that we have enabled. One for device, so we have two entities, device management and then the application enablement. You can use either same stack or separate stacks for managing objects or for communicating with objects. So one goes through LWM, lightweight M2M, the other can go through MQTT, HTTP, secure HTTP or other protocols. This requires a lot of work. However, you know, for specialized applications, you may have to do it. A more simplified version is to use LWM2M server for all your needs, and we believe that majority, 80%, more than 80% of the applications can be developed using just this. This gives you faster time to market, ease of development, ease of testing, etc., 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 basically. So this is the proposed approach for us. In summary, what we are trying to do is create a set of tools that we hand over to our module providers. And the same API documentation is also made available to the ecosystem developers. Module providers, whatever they have, whatever changes they make to our code, they can also provide it to the ecosystem developer directly. Now, ecosystem developer has two pieces of infrastructure, one coming from module provider, which is going on the actual device, and then one coming from Qualcomm directly, which can help you simulate a lot of things, try and develop the application even without modules. Once you get the module and the hardware kit from the module provider, then you can do the actual testing, etc., basically. So two parallel paths can be used, one for just development, another for actual commercialization and testing, etc. So that's how we are trying to enable this end-to-end. Although I'm saying end-to-end in a very, very simplified manner, I think on that part, on the ecosystem part, what is most important is application logic, your use case, which has to be specific to use case, and how you utilize these layers which are provided by our module providers as well as us. At the back, we have three partners, Wavins, Sim Technologies, and we also have NeoWay. All of them have modules and some devices which are developed using those modules for display. So if you want to experiment, if you want to take a look, please feel free to stop by their booths. But I think this is how we are trying to develop the ecosystem. The opportunity is large. However, without devices, you cannot tap that opportunity. Opportunity is large. Even with devices, if you do not have applications, you cannot tap that opportunity. So the chicken and egg problem has shifted from network to actually the devices and the applications, and I think that's the one which Mobitel is also trying to solve here. I think we are here in it with them, trying to help the larger ecosystem here. Whatever we can do to help out, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help. That's all I have. Any questions? All right. If nothing else, then I'll probably end my presentation here. If there are any follow-on questions later, I'm going to be around for another couple of hours, so we can take it up later as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.